Yeah, that's exactly right, Mark.
Appreciate everyone for joining us for Coach Franklin's weekly press conference. We'll start with an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll open up to questions.
Yeah, appreciate you guys being here again, covering Penn State football like always. Just quickly recap FIU game, some general positives. I think special teams is really making some game-changing plays. You saw Gabe's 68-yard punt. I don't know if I've ever experienced a reaction in the stadium for a punt like that. It was pretty cool to kind of hear the reaction. And then the block punt by Dom, obviously. I thought we continue to manage the game well. I'm talking about the players in terms of not having to burn timeouts, having all 3 timeouts available at the end of the half, all 3 timeouts at the end of the game, not burning timeouts because we got 12 guys on the field or 10 guys on the field, things like that. So had some duplicate jersey numbers, had to change jerseys, things like that. And I thought our guys all managed that well, including Coach Lustig and his crew. Played disciplined Penn State football, had 3 penalties. I think we can still improve, specifically the 2 kicks out of bounds, which are unforced errors. We got to clean that up because obviously that impacts field position dramatically. I do think we were much more physical up front, O-line, tight ends, and D-line, but we can still improve there. Opportunities for growth, special teams, just got to eliminate the penalties. The block kick was frustrating. Literally for I don't know how many years now, the way we teach it is you are responsible for your inside gap, and then you basically use an arm bar in your outside gap to help the next offensive player. And everybody does that. You're responsible for your inside gap, help outside. Inside gap, help outside. We've had 2 years now in a row where guys have done that maybe 20 times in a row in games, let alone training camp. And then all of a sudden, a guy gets the idea that they're going to do something that they've never been coached. They've never asked a question on why they should do that. They've never done it in practice one time, but we've had 2 times now, 2 years in a row, where a guy takes 2 hands, puts them on the inside gap, doesn't help in the outside gap, and then we get split and get a field goal block. So that kind of stuff we got to get cleaned up. That is extremely frustrating as a coach. And then just more consistent in general on special teams, specifically in the second halves. Got to be more explosive on the offensive side of the ball. We were 10.9% explosive on Saturday. And then we got to be more effective on third down. That's why we weren't able to get into a rhythm. We were 25%. Defensively, similar. We allowed them to stay on schedule, and then they end up going for a bunch on fourth down. I really feel like, used to only talk third down, and really you should combine third and fourth downs, because the way people are going for it now on fourth down, at the end of the day, third down used to be so important because it factored whether you got off the field or not, and really it's a combined third and fourth down stat. So I think they were 60% on fourth down because there was just too many manageable fourth down situations, and then we had too many drops. We gotta catch the ball. We had too many drops in the game. We got to do whatever we got to do. That jugs machine should be burning up in the Lash building right now in the weight room with guys in there, making sure they're recreating the exact catch or exact drop positioning to get that fixed. And then just making sure defensively we're gap sound, doing your job, not trying to make plays, getting outside of your gap, trying to make a play. So, but overall, some good things. Villanova coming in here, in-state foe that we got a lot of respect for. I've known the head coach, Coach Ferrante, for a long time. Pretty cool. He's been there 39 years. Former O-line coach, now been the head coach going on 9 years, going on 10 years. But the consistency that they've had in their program has been awesome, and it's led to really good things for them. When you talk about, coordinators, same thing. This offense coordinator has been there for 7 years now. So there's some experience there. 17 years of coaching college football. They're a spread team that are primarily going to operate out of the gun. They'll use some pistol backfield sets. In terms, when we say pistol, we're talking about the tailback being behind the quarterback. Primarily a zone and gap scheme team. They'll use inside zone, wide zone schemes, quarterback draws, and third down situations. Pass game, heavy RPO team with a little bit of drop back pass. 11 personnel and 10 personnel they'll base out of. Quarterback is a transfer from Nicholls State, Pat McQuaid. Their running back number 24, David Abbott, is a kid out of Frederick, Maryland, is a sophomore. The quarterback's a graduate senior. And then an offensive lineman that we've been impressed with, Stefan Voltaire, who is a senior, 6'5", 315 pounds. Defensively, same thing. Coach Pennypacker's been there for 11 years, 4 years as a defensive coordinator. You guys remember we had Ola with us for a few years. He took over for Ola when Ola left. 3-down scheme. They've stayed with the same scheme by promoting from within. They do a lot in the back half, like a lot of people do. They're going to play middle of field open, 2 and 4, and try to disguise the 2, and then they'll play cover 1 and cover 3 and try to disguise the 2. Overall blitz about 38%. Linebacker number 31, Shane Hartzell. We've been impressed with him, kid out of Percy. Defensive lineman number 98, Obina Wabodo, senior defensive tackle from New Jersey, and then defensive back number 2, Zamir Dawood, kid out of New Jersey, doing some nice things for him. And then on special teams, first team as the special teams coordinator, Josh Fletcher, because we hired their special teams coordinator, is with us. Coach Colangelo doing a great job for us. And then when you talk about guys that we've been impressed with, they got an ECU transfer, an Australian punter who's older than half of you guys. He's 33 years old, number 0, Luke Larson. And then their place kicker, number 42, Jack Barnum, is also a transfer. So both of those guys are special. Both of those specialists are transfers. So expect a packed house and a great environment here. Looking forward to Saturday, and we open it up to questions.
Start with Rich Carcella, followed by Bob Flounders.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good, Rich. How are you?
Fantastic. Hey, James, can you assess the defensive operation through 2 games? What has it been like, seeing Jim Knowles at work up close for 2 games? And secondly, can you assess how Zariah and Zion played in their return?
Yeah, so I'll start with Zariah. It was just great having him back. Probably played a little bit more than what I wanted him to play in terms of kind of just rep count. But he looked quick off the ball. He looked confident. Mentally looked confident. Physically looked confident. Emotionally had a big smile on his face, was flying around having fun. So I think that was big for us. We're young at defensive end, so that experience and that leadership is important for us. Having Zion back, I thought, was also significant. The guy's played a ton of football around here. Has made some big time plays and big moments for us. So that was big, and we're going to need that to continue. And when you have him, and then you have AJ, and you got Zachy, and really Elliott and AC. There's a lot of guys that have played a lot of football in the back half. So that'll be important for us. Those 2 guys continuing to get in there, get reps, and contribute from a leadership standpoint and also from a production standpoint. And then just in terms of with Jim, ultimately it's about points, right? And obviously our first 2 games, it's been pretty impressive in terms of points and the number of guys that we've been able to play. But I do think we can be more of a suffocating style defense we've given up some yards that I think Jim would prefer. Obviously, us being a little bit tighter and reacting. I still think our defense is thinking and not playing as fast as maybe we have in the past, and that's what's going to be important this week. And then obviously moving forward as well is just getting these guys playing fast and confident in some of the tweaks of the new system. So that'll be important for us moving forward.
Let's go to Bob Flounders, followed by Mark Wogenrich.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. James, you touched on the physicality of your tight ends at the line of scrimmage a little bit earlier. I wanted to ask you just about the blocking of the tight ends and the wideouts in the run game. And the reason I asked that, it looked like on Katron's long touchdown run, they did a really good job of creating room for him, past the line of scrimmage, and the wideouts came across the field there to kind of give him an escort. What's your thoughts on how they performed?
Yeah, I thought that was a clinic play. I mean, both tight ends not only had physical blocks, but they ran their feet. A lot of times guys will cover people up and feel like they've done enough. Those two guys ran their feet and ran them off the field, which allowed Katron to really stay away from pursuit. And then he was able to break some tackles from pursuit, and then to see those two wideouts leading them down the field. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've noticed already. I think there's been a real change in our wide receivers in terms of their effort in the blocking game, in the run game, blocking in the run game. And I think there's a little bit of, you have to be careful when you start getting into a ton of RPO. It's hard to develop receivers sometimes as blockers because they very rarely do it, right? It's all RPO. So I think that's been a real positive. That's been obvious on film. That if you go through that tape again, there's examples of those guys coming down and digging out the safeties and having some physical blocks. Liam had a pancake block on a safety. Pena had a pancake block on a safety, I think. So I thought those things were real positive. So we're going to need to continue to do that. We had some drops, obviously, with Khalil. We get those things kind of cleaned up and removed, then I think we'll feel really good about our tight ends and what they're doing this season.
Let's go to Mark Wogenrich, followed by Frank Bodani.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good, Mark. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. After the game, Drew Aller said he caught himself overthinking in some moments. I guess specifically he was speaking about the first quarter, first half. Did you see that? And then how do you address that or manage that when that comes up?
Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily say I saw that. It's kind of hard to see, what somebody is thinking. But he missed some throws that he normally doesn't. And I think what happens for all these guys, we talked about it in all my end of the year meetings, it's a really important trait and skill for guys to learn, is next play. Next play. No matter what happens the previous play, positive or negative, you must move on. You must move on to the next one. And I think a couple times that happened where you miss a really easy throw that he makes 99.9% of the time, and that frustrates you. And if you're not careful, that will linger. So I thought that happened early in the game. I think he got frustrated with himself a few times, and it lingered. And I think what happens is when you got people that have invested the amount that a guy like Drew and most of our team have invested, that's easier said than done than to move on to the next play and not get frustrated and upset with yourself. But that's why it's such an important trait to learn. No matter what happens the previous play, you got to flush it and you got to move on to the next play. And each play is kind of its own entity, and you gotta make sure you're maximizing it. The only way to maximize it is to be present. You can't live in the past. You can't live in the future. You must be present. So that I did see. But the overthinking came from you guys asking them questions after the game, and then obviously myself and Danny and Trace talking to them after the game about that as well.
Let's go to Frank Bodani, followed by Neil Riddell.
Hey, good afternoon, James. Hope you're doing well today.
You too, Frank?
Yeah, thank you. After the game, someone asked you about your offensive line, and you said something about, you thought there was a lot of meat left on the bone. Well, can you talk about maybe how you think they've played so far? Is it the way up to your expectations, the way you thought the offensive line would be? And if it's not quite, can you explain maybe what's going on so far through a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I thought week 2, like I mentioned at the beginning of the press conference, I thought we were much more physical, much more physical. And I think, in today's college football, if you're not careful, what can happen sometimes is very rarely do we practice live. And even when we don't practice live, we go thud. We don't want guys on the ground. So you don't want your offensive line finishing guys. And if you're not careful, they haven't done that, but maybe 2 or 3 times during training camp, and then you get to the game, and that's what you want, right? But you haven't been practicing it that way. So I thought that showed up a little bit in week 1. Week 2, I thought we were much more physical. There's some things that I think we still got to get cleaned up to create a little bit more space and create a little bit more separation. I also think the running backs, making the free hit or miss on a more consistent basis also will help with that. There's been some times in protection where, we have not ID'd the front in the ideal way, and that happens sometimes, right? They do a good job disguising where the pressure's coming from. So sometimes we're not in the most advantageous situations. So a combination of all those things. But I saw a big step last week. I think as you I think you're referencing or referring to a little bit, is obviously there's such high expectations for that group coming into the season, and deservedly so. That plays a part in it, right? So I saw a tremendous stride last week. I think they'll play very well this week, and I think we'll look back at this O-line this year and feel like they were one of the better offensive lines we've had.
Let's go to Neil Riddell, followed by Mike Gross.
Hi, James. I like how you referenced the youth of the press corps compared to the Villanova.
I thought
Special.
Somebody was going to bring
cool.
that up before you, because right after I say that, it's like all the guys that I guess can't drive to the press conference to be here in person are all at home getting tended to and eating yogurt and pudding and stuff like that. Are all on the call. So I thought someone was going to bring it up before you, but it's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in my boxers.
Very nice. You're on fire today. You're on fire today, Neil.
Well, hey, I was wondering, you played a lot of people the first couple weeks. Do you plan to continue that Saturday? And is the open date after this game a factor in the approach to playing times?
Yeah, we'll continue to play a bunch of guys this week. I won't get into next week because we're focused on this week and staying present and this opportunity that we have this Saturday. But yeah, we typically have done this. I think in my 12 years we've played a ton of guys early in the season to try to develop depth, and we'll try to do that again this week. It's developing depth, but it's also an opportunity to evaluate these guys in games and who deserves more reps and who's not necessarily ready for prime time yet. Now they may be by week 5, week 6, middle of the season, but it's all of that. It's knock on wood, staying as healthy and as fresh as we possibly can. It's all of that. This isn't necessarily your question, but I think it just kind of popped into my mind too. In terms of that, a little bit is ball distribution too. Like I thought last week was a really good example of what we want it to look like. I think both Nick and Katron had like 16 touches, maybe 16 and 17. It was right in that ballpark. And then, I think the tight ends had like 5 touches each. The wide receivers all had, between 5 and 7 touches each. So that's really what we would like. We just got to eliminate some of the drops because the more we do that, we'll stay on the field longer by staying on the field on third down and picking up first downs, which will create more opportunities, more touches for more guys. So, but yeah, we want to develop depth. We want to evaluate our roster and see who's ready. And then we want to try to stay as healthy as we can for what we anticipate to be a long season.
Last question from Zoom, Mike Gross.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. If you talk about on the one hand, it's hard to win no matter what, 1-0 this week, and on the other hand, you have to concentrate on the performance and the quality of the performance regardless of the result. That's sort of a spectrum there. Take the temperature of your team a little bit for us. Do you feel like how do you feel like they performed the first couple of weeks, and what's the sort of mood, or is anybody communicating about it? What do you think they think about what they've done?
Yeah, we go in each week and grade the film with them and are critical of areas that we need to get better as a coaching staff, as players, as all of it. And I think that's kind of always the feeling on Sundays and Mondays and even Saturday after the game. But yeah, I don't think it's probably more than that, Mike. I think there's areas that we know we have to get better, and that's in some rooms articulated more clearly than others. Terry Smith has got a reputation of being the ultimate truth teller in the building to everybody, including myself. So that's happening in all the different meetings. All the coaches have different approaches to how they do that. So that's valuable and that's important. So I think our guys feel like we've done enough to win, but we haven't played up to what our expectations and standards are. But I would also say, Mike, that's always going to be the case. We're always going to feel like we can play better. What I would also say to you is I'm going to make sure, which is challenging to do sometimes in today's culture and today's day and age, is we're going to appreciate winning. Every Sunday I put up in front of the whole team, when we have our team meeting, all the teams that lost that were supposed to win. And there's a long list every Sunday. And then, as I think we all, need to do from a perspective standpoint, is sometimes we're too close to it, right? So I look at a ton of teams across the country that were in dogfights last week that weren't supposed to be in dogfights. So I think your point is a good one, Mike. It's balance. It's, okay, at the end of the day, winning's the most important thing. Did you do that? Okay, number 2, how can you get better and make sure that you're playing in a way that we can build confidence and chemistry to play at the highest level? And then also have a global perspective when it comes to the game of college football and what's happening week in and week out, and say, okay, we're going to appreciate this aspect, but we also are going to be hypercritical of the areas that we need to get better. And I do think there's a balance of those two things, and I think it's a fair question, and I think it's a good question.
Over here on the right, Mark.
Thanks for your time, James.
Hey, Mark, you too.
Can you compare what you saw from Chaz in Game 1 to what you saw in Game 2, and just maybe discuss the arc that you could see for him in terms of overall development?
Yeah, I think you guys heard me talk about it in training camp. You hadn't really seen a whole lot of it. And then I think I mentioned to you week one, he talked about being nervous and he was happy that that game one was over, so he can kind of get that out of his system. So I think he's just gonna continue to get better. I mean, especially when you think about he's only played defensive end for 2 years. He was a high school quarterback, I think, his junior year in high school. So I think he's got a chance to just take leaps and bounds, each game. I think the other thing is, as you know, he's kind of getting comfortable with the routine. Obviously, Denai's doing a really good job of kind of being a mentor to him. Denai can be kind of tough love from time to time, but I think that's been good. I think Dion and the staff have done a really good job with him. He's also just a really, really humble, hardworking kid. So I would anticipate him continue to get better and better and better. And then obviously he's also a guy that as we start to narrow this thing down, his reps will probably go up, because rather than playing a 3 deep at defensive end, there's going to be some games where we play a 2 deep. So that may mean 8 to 10, 8 to 12 more reps for him. And I think the more reps and more plays and more opportunities and the more experience he gets, the more production will come. So he's an exciting young player, and he's an awesome young man. And, his family's done a really good job of raising him. But I'm not going to talk about him too much, because I want to keep him humble and hungry.
Up here in the front, John.
Hey, James.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
You mentioned explosiveness on Saturday, and then you mentioned it again today a little bit, not reaching those goals. What is kind of holding you guys back from getting to where you want to in that regard, and how do you rectify it?
Yeah, we missed a couple of the throws, right? We missed a couple of the throws. We had some drops. I think we had 5 drops. And when you catch the ball, there's a chance that you're going to make somebody miss, and those are going to, say, half of those turn into explosive plays. And then I think there's times where, just like Katron did on Saturday, you break a tackle. Now you got a chance for one of these runs to go, and that's going to happen, as we've seen for the last 4 years with Nick as well. So those things will come. They'll come organically just by doing the things that we should be doing. Breaking tackles, making people miss as ball carriers, that's as receivers and running backs. Maximizing the opportunities that we get. Hitting a few more of the throws, straining and protection a little bit longer. All those things, I think are important and helpful. And then I think, again, if our third down percentage goes up, that's going to create more opportunities. Our defense getting off the field on third down and with a little bit more 3 and outs, that'll create some more opportunities as well, because time of possession wasn't great, right? So all these things factor in. It's not just one thing like our favorite media just chuck it deep deal. Like, all these things factor into it. To be fair, I think we probably could throw it down the field a few more times, but then it's also the ones we throw, catching and making people miss. It's making the free hitter miss in the running game, straining and protection a little bit longer, making a few more of the throws. You do a little bit better in each one of those areas, and now all of a sudden you're close to 20% explosive plays.
In the front, Audrey.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. How has Nick Singleton looked to you thus far, and kind of building off that explosiveness? Do you think there's kind of more there for him that you're maybe waiting to see?
Yeah. So I think I had a conversation with Nick yesterday, and I think a little bit like Drew. I think he was thinking too much, and I think he's getting coached in some areas that I think are going to be important for his growth, and I see him getting better. But for all these guys, we're going to coach the heck out of them Sunday through Friday. Saturday, when you wake up, just go play. And I think he's trying to play perfect. I think he's such a good kid, and he's so coachable. He's trying to do all the things that are asked from him. But again, that's not what Saturdays are for. Saturdays, just go play, let it rip. And we had a good conversation about that on Sunday, and then I had a good conversation with Charles and Stan on Sunday as well. So I think we'll be in a good place there, and I do see him, really getting better in a lot of areas. But I do think on Saturdays, like we discussed with Drew, I think they're overthinking some things and trying to play perfect rather than just letting it rip.
Over here on the right, Tyler.
Hey, James, we appreciate your time.
You too.
Wondering about your linebacker group through 2 games. How would you evaluate the top 3 guys that we've kind of known about for a while, and then also the depth that you've maybe been able to cultivate or are working on cultivating?
Yes. So I think you talk about the tweaks in the system and the changes that we have with Jim. I think that's showing up at the linebacker position, and I think that's showing up at the safety position, the things that are asked of them. That's a little bit different now. I think at safety, there's some real competition there, and we're developing some depth. At linebacker, we need to get some more guys in the game to develop depth. Because there's not enough of that right now. But those 2 positions are challenged the most with the tweaks of what we're doing with the system with Jim. We got to get those guys playing fast and confident, and we need to do that. This week that needs to show up on Saturday, and we got to play some guys. I think I'd also make the argument that's always the position where I fight with the coaches the most about playing guys. Because the linebacker's essentially the quarterback running the defense, and the safeties, like Dex always says, if a D tackle makes a mistake, we got a chance to get it right. If a linebacker makes a mistake, we got a chance to get it right. Corners, for the most part, if they make a mistake, there's somebody behind them to make them right. If a safety makes a mistake, there's nobody left, right? So, but developing that depth is critical. That's also why, obviously, as you guys know, on Sundays we have our developmental squad scrimmages, and we play a lot of guys that played in the game if their rep count wasn't significant. So that's going to be important for us moving forward, getting those guys playing fast and confident and running the defense and running the back half and creating some depth. So if a guy's helmet breaks and he needs to go get his chin strap fixed, that we got somebody else we can put in the game that we feel good about.
Way in the back, Caleb.
Hey, James, how are you?
My man right here is dying to get. No one's giving him any love. He can't even listen to my answers because he's trying to get your attention to get the microphone. Sir.
James, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Kind of following up on that, we talked to Tony after the game as well, and he talked a little bit about Jim's new scheme in the playbook and just called it hard, but also it's a winning way. I'm just curious how you kind of go throughout the season of implementing Jim's defense fully. Do you guys focus in the early stages on, perfecting what's in right now, or how much goes into new install week in and week out?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I think it's a little bit of both, right? You never go into a game with the whole package in. It's what we need that week to be successful, and some of that is to cause challenges for your opponent, and some of that is to put your players in the best position to be successful. And part of it is, in the past with Tom and Manny, we were essentially a one-gap defense, which allowed everybody to play fast. We were in a ton of man coverage, but that also created some challenges where we didn't have as many answers some weeks, for maybe some of the challenges that we may have in personnel. So we have more answers right now, and I would say our linebackers are now being forced to play in more of a traditional linebacker role. Having to defeat blocks, and where before we could spike and hit a gap and that was your responsibility. So we still have a little bit of that in the system. So it's a different way of playing. So there's some growth that's going on there. But in terms of the system, to your point, not everything will be in any given week, and I think that's where Jim's experience is so valuable right now. I think we're being aggressive with it, but that's where his experience is so valuable, where he's going to say, okay, we're going to do whatever we have to do against Villanova to win the game, but then there's going to be some things that we're also going to put on them that's going to be important for us in the long haul during the season, that they need to get more comfortable and confident with.
Way in the back, T. Frank.
James, how you doing?
Hey, T.
Last year we had a conversation about the deep ball and placement on deep balls, where you wanted the quarterback to either put it exactly where he's supposed to or leave it a little bit short for those PI opportunities. Has any of that coaching changed this year? I was just curious if that was part of an off-season conversation or any sort of development for not just your quarterbacks but for the staff.
Yeah, no, same philosophy. I think that's most people's philosophy. When you're one-on-one, obviously everybody would love the perfect throw in stride. That's what everybody's ultimate goal is. But if you're not going to do that, you want to leave it short. And if you leave it short, you still got a chance for the receiver to find the ball and make a play on it, where a lot of times the defensive backs can't find the ball, or you get a pass interference call, which those things showed up on Saturday as well. So, in a perfect world, we want to hit them in stride. But what we want to eliminate is, okay, you take 5 shots in the game and 3 are overthrows, where if you have a chance and you 3 are underthrown, you got a chance to get an interference on one, still an explosive play on the other. And again, as long as the ball is left with the right location, you can't leave it short and inside on a deep ball, right? You got to leave it short and outside. So those things, I think, are what's so critical, is the ball location, not necessarily the depth of the throw. Still similar philosophy. I mean, that showed up. You had 2 plays, Devontae Ross, where one ended up a pass interference, another one ended up a touchdown, and neither one of those were thrown perfectly in stride.
In the front, Jack.
Hey, Coach, how's your Monday been?
Good, you?
Yeah, doing all right. Going towards the specialists.
They were not going to bring the microphone to you, just so you know.
I appreciate it. Talking about the specialists, I think it was Riley Thompson last year. It talked about it was a very self-motivating group, a team that lived by the mantra of attack every session. Going towards Villanova and going off FIU, where you specified in improving the special teams, how do you and Justin kind of come in and talk about your approach to improving the special teams, both from like a physical and a mental standpoint?
In the offseason you're talking about?
Or just in the offseason, but also in a week where you specified that you want to improve on special teams.
Okay. When you first said Justin, I was like, who is Justin?
Justin Lustig.
I know. We don't ever call him Justin. So it's Coach Lustig or it's Stig. So I was like, who's this Justin guy he's talking about? I been a ton of work put into the offseason when it comes to special teams. And then whenever you're able to have all those starters back, obviously there's a ton of confidence that comes from that too. And then I think the other thing that factored into it is Stig knowing our personnel and, what does Liam Clifford do really well? What does Dakari do really well? What does Rojas do really well? Who are the guys that are starting on offense and defense that are also going to start on special teams? Who are the guys that primary role is going to be on special teams and can be really significant contributors there? So it's kind of all of that and putting the puzzle together. And then each week it's, okay, how can we put stress on their special teams and how can we put our guys in the best position to be successful? And then how do we have wrinkles that also break some of our self-scout tendencies that we have too, whether it's in protection. As you guys know in the past, we were a big roll punt team, roll punt team, roll punt team. Well, if your opponent knows that, then all of their block schemes are devised to attack, where the launch point is going to be. So I like what we did this offseason. I've liked, for the most part, what we've done in game 1 and 2. We just got to eliminate some of the unforced errors. We had a kickoff return last week where we had one guy block the wrong guy, and if we block the right guy, there's the hole's going to be 12 yards wide, and it's going to be a kickoff return for a touchdown, and nobody gets to see that because we just have one guy that got his count wrong. So those are the things that I don't want to be talking about at the end of the season. We got a chance to really capitalize on all these things. Kicking the ball out of bounds, it's an unforced error. Those things, they must be eliminated. The missed assignments must be eliminated so that our special teams have a chance to be the weapon that we think they can be.
Got time for one more on the right. Daniel?
Hey, Daniel.
James, you talked about the ball distribution in terms of, on offense. Luke Reynolds had 9 targets, 7 catches, obviously the most action he's seen in his career from that statistical perspective. How have you seen him make this stride now in year 2 and also build that chemistry with Drew where Drew feels, I think, to trust him in some big spots?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confidence there. There's also the thing that we look at, too, is not just, okay, that they caught it. It's, okay, after they caught it, one of the things that he did is he consistently made people miss, right? So now you're taking some of your own God-given ability and adding to the scheme, adding to the throw. So that factors into it as well. A guy that's going to catch the ball and going to make something happen after they catch it. So, you can't have one without the other, obviously. But I think there's a ton of confidence in him making the tough catch on a consistent basis. I think Hudson's got that reputation as well. And we need more of that. We need more of that. It was great to see Ross show up. Pena did it, obviously, in week 1, and we gotta get all of them doing it each week. Khalil's done that over his career. Didn't show up last week, but we need it. But that's when we'll be our most effective. That's when we'll be our most explosive. When there's a number of guys out there that I think have shown you guys and shown us that they have the ability to do it, and now we need to do it on a more consistent basis.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thanks, guys.